anticipation.
And I think on their minds, not the rookies, they weren't there last year, but everyone who was there last year has to be thinking, just as Donna said, that it's not quite as humid as last year. The temperatures are high, but if the humidity stays like this, I think we'll have a good, fair race. Because last year it got so hot that really the runners, the winner was the man who could stagger to the line first. I don't think that'll happen this year.
There you see the starting gun, which will set the 18,168 off across the world's longest suspension bridge, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge.
4, 3, 2.
And now it begins. On the left side of the screen are elite men and repeat marathoners. On the right side of the screen, where there is a huge jam up now, are women and those who are competing in the race for the first time. There is a bit of a stagger to accommodate a slight difference in the structure of the two ramps as they go across this 2-mile bridge, leaving Staten Island and progressing toward Brooklyn, the borough in which they spend the largest percentage mileage during the course of the 26 miles, 385 yards. There you see the three men who have gone to the front of the pack early. Have not yet made name identification of those three runners, but we will be keeping you up to date on the progress at the beginning of the pack as they begin this journey. Some of them will finish in something close to 2 hours. Some of them will take as long as 5 or 6 hours, and there you see some of the many runners at the back of the pack who get one of the largest thrills of their lives today as they are only beginning to leave the Verrazano Narrows Bridge starting line. The runner at the front of the pack whom you saw in bib number 179, there on the left of the screen is Daniel Duhamel of France. Next to him is the runner wearing 65 and 34. Those will be identified shortly. And these people come from all over the United States. As you see, Greta Weitz, who has already moved to the front of the women's pack. They represent all 50 states and the District of Columbia, 74 foreign countries. And there, Catherine Switzer, is the beginning of Greta Weitz's 7th journey in the New York City Marathon. Actually, the 8th. She dropped out in 1981.
That's right. She dropped out in 1981, and that was the race that Allison Rowe set the world record. Of course, Greta now equals that record with her best time. It's important for people to know, though, that Greta's best time is really only 8th ranked in the world, although she is 4th ranked as an individual. Yet, Jim, you know, every race has a personality, and there's a dominant figure in the race, a men's race and a women's race. And clearly, the dominant figure in the women's competition is Greta Weitz, and it's around her that the action is going to develop and people are going to key off of. There are even going to be a lot of men that are going to key off of her. They think that Greta is the soul of consistency. They're going to go for a good time with her, and a lot of women, of course, are looking for their personal best and maybe even haul her down.
I think what's interesting here is Greta has gone out very quickly. I don't think there are many men, Masters runners, who have been able to go with her, and Lisa Martin is right with her. Lisa Martin had said to me earlier in the week, and maybe it was printed in the papers, that she thinks she can stay with Greta the whole way. Now, Greta went out very quickly in the beginning as if to say, okay, I'm going to let you see if you can mile.
They are on the bridge and heading uphill to the crest of the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. They're in mile 1. The 26-plus miles of the New York City Marathon. And then back down into Manhattan, where they will enter Central Park for the finish of the race. There's a view from behind the more than 18,000 entrants as those who are toward the back of the pack are just now getting away from the starting area. And there, once again, is an aerial view from the apex of the bridge. This is the steepest climb in the race, the one which begins the race and brings the runners to the middle of the bridge. Our camera is mounted at the very top of the stanchion on the world's longest suspension bridge. There, Catherine Switzer, are the two leaders in the women's race. Greta Weitz of Norway on the left, 25-year-old Lisa Martin, now living in Mesa, Arizona, on the right.
And Lisa is doing exactly what she said she would do earlier this week. She said she was going out and was just going to stick with Greta. She felt she could really run with her. She has been improving consistently. And she's the kind of runner that Greta's got to be a little bit afraid of, because every time Lisa runs, Lisa gets better and better. She had a bad race in Pittsburgh in terms of the heat, but she knew she was in control the whole way. She didn't worry about time. She just ran it hard. And she's known for running well in the last meters, but she said here she thinks she can stick it out and even sprint her in. It'll be very interesting.
Isn't it fair to say that Lisa Martin is probably still learning about this event, having begun as a 400-meter hurdler and not having run her first marathon until 2 years ago?
She's a pretty interesting character from that respect, and in fact, she and her husband Ken, who's a former steeplechaser, both say that her biggest fear is turning to stone, that is, running out of gas. So what she wants to do is hold on so she has enough energy for the end.
All right, now we look at the men's race, where early on the leaders were 3 runners from France, Dominique Cou, Jean-Michel Charbonnel, and Daniel Duhamel. And now you can see Ahmed Saleh there in the number 2 bib with the sweatband on his head, who has moved up to position himself among the leaders. That is Saleh at the left side of the screen. And Marty LaCourie, certainly he is the most intriguing character in the men's race.
He is the most intriguing character to come on the running scene in a long time. His country has emerged in the last year. Tremendous stories. He is a nomad. The temperatures in his country range from 85 to 107 degrees. So the heat, he's hoping, I'm sure, that it will get hotter. Bill Reefsnyder, 110, is an American who recently ran one of the fastest half marathons ever run. He has not run a full marathon, and he's young. He's only 23 years old. He doesn't know if he can go the entire distance as well as he'd like to yet, but he's so pleased with his progress that he jumped in. They are just past the highest point on the course, 274 feet above sea level, and now they will not hit another hill of that size during the race. So the worst hill is behind them.
When you look at the leaders, you can see quite graphically that they are now pounding their feet on a downhill grade as they come off of that bridge.
It was very noticeable in the women's race that Greta was flowing down the hill much smoother than Lisa Martin. I think Lisa Martin is finding the going very easy for her, and she's actually making herself not to go past Greta. Greta went out quickly, and already I think the mind games have started. Greta went out quickly, she couldn't drop Lisa, and now she's dropped back, and Greta is not really setting a fast pace anymore.
But let me say one thing, Marty. Lisa Martin is just really learning, as you said earlier, how to run a marathon. And you know, she still trains on the track in spikes, so she's trying to go up on her toes. She loves that sensation of speed. Greta's a real veteran at this stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see what it's going to be like halfway through when the road surface really gets to the runner's leg.
Although Greta Weitz herself was a track runner who had never run a marathon before being persuaded to run here by Fred Lebow back in 1978. Much has happened since then. We're 9 minutes and 20 seconds into the race, and the runners, as a great mass, are now beginning to exit the Verrazano Bridge and to enter Brooklyn. They have left Staten Island. They will enter Brooklyn. 4 of New York's 5 boroughs still ahead of them. And right now, there are the men's standings after 2 miles of this New York City Marathon. Bill Reefsnyder in the lead. Daniel Duhamel of France is a masters runner, 40 years old. Ahmed Saleh currently running comfortably in 3rd place. He is the Djiboutian of whom we expect to be telling you a great deal before this race is over. There, the fountain in the New York harbor. And on the women's side, Greta Weitz is still the leader in that particular competition. And there you see, as they enter Brooklyn and turn onto 4th Avenue in Brooklyn, Greta Weitz in the lead, and behind her, Lisa Martin.
You know, Marty, you were talking earlier about mind games, and Lisa Martin is so close to Greta here, right behind her, just not quite visible, but that's a very good mind game, too. I think she's trying to disconcert her a little bit by just sticking right that close. She's got the whole road, and it's very interesting that she's right on her so closely.
Now, as we mentioned before the start of the race, one of our new technical innovations this year is the ABC Microcam, which is mounted on the top of the helmet, being worn by Rod. Positions himself behind the men's leaders. You can see him dropping right in behind those 4 or 5 men who are at the front of the pack. And here now is the shot from Dixon's Microcam. This will really be interesting as they get into Manhattan and you begin to experience what the runners feel with a huge wall of humanity behind the barriers on both sides of the street. But even here in Brooklyn, where crowds turn out customarily for this experience, you can see the support the runners are beginning to get. There now, our head-on shot from the leader's camera of the runners in the front of the pack. And there is Dixon. He will be positioned there and will run at a 5-minute mile pace for us at 3 other sections along the course.
Well, this certainly gives us another advantage. Some of the favorites are who have not worked their way up to the front, like Jeff Smith, who we were able to see from behind, but we couldn't see him from the front camera. That was terrific.
And there now, once again, are Greta Weitz and Lisa Martin at the front of the women's race. Now, quite obviously, Catherine Switzer, during the course of the day, these women will run with and past quite a number of men who are among the top competitors in the men's race.
That's right. You know, the best woman runner in the marathon will not outrun the best male marathoner in the race, but they will really hold their own in the top of the field in the mixed race. So I'm expecting, you know, a lot of men even to key off Greta.
This has been an interesting week for Greta Weitz, who, as Catherine Switzer mentioned before the show, has new obligations in this present stage of her marathon running career. There are long hours involved in media start, and the Brooklyn neighborhood through which Greta is running right now is Bay Ridge, which was once mostly Norwegian, now mostly Italian and Irish, though there is the occasional window full of smoked fish or sausages to make her feel a little bit at home in this, the third and fourth miles of the New York City Marathon. They are into Brooklyn, running at this moment through the Bay Ridge section and moving toward the Sunset Park area, and they will go from here into Queens, into Manhattan, up into the Bronx, and back into Central Park for the finish. Now we look again at the men's leaders. And once again, Ahmed Saleh is lurking behind two other runners, one of them Marty LaCourie, an American.
Well, Reeve Snyder is out there leading the race. However, I'm always a little skeptical when a runner who hasn't run a marathon before shows up with an advertisement on his chest that he's never run before and takes a lead in the race. I don't know if he's intending to finish this race or just be up there. The interesting thing is Jeff Smith has gone right to the lead, as many people has expected. He is not worried about the heat. He's going to try and run away. He is going through the aid stations, grabbing the water very quickly, and now setting a good pace.
You'll remember Jeff Smith, who ran a dramatic debut marathon here at New York in 1983 and led until the last 150 meters of that race when Rod Dixon passed him and turned him into a heartbroken second-place finisher. Jeff Smith, in the customary long-striding, energetic style which we have learned to associate with him, will be back as we continue our coverage of the New York City Marathon. We are back, and there you see the man in the number 3 bib, Jeff Smith of England, who is currently leading the men's race. Just behind him, Reeve Snyder of the United States, and then Ahmed Saleh of Djibouti, and the man behind Saleh is Hussein, also regarded as a potential contender here. If you've followed the development of marathon running in this country at all, one name with which you are certainly familiar is that of 37-year-old Bill Rogers, 4-time winner of this race, 4-time winner of the Boston Marathon, and today running the rear. Rogers is wearing a pulse monitor, as we told you before the beginning of the race, and right now we're going to check in with our medical expert very much. We'll keep up to date through the efforts of Paul Thompson on Bill Rogers and the pulse monitor as we go along. But now, once again, there is a look at Jeff Smith, who, as I mentioned before, was a character in one of the most dramatic finishes in the 16-year history of this race when he lost his debut marathon in 1983. A little bit earlier this week, Marty LaCourie spoke to Jeff Smith about that experience and its impact on his running career.
They're even. They're basically even now, and Dixon's going to the arms, which he's been conserving.
Rod Dixon is about to has taken the lead from Jeff Smith in the final minute of the race. Smith trying to come back, but the pain, it appears, is going to be too much.
You know, like the initial shock of getting beat is always a disappointment. But, you know, as time wore on, you know, a lot of people have remembered Jeff Smith for finishing second and a gutsy performance. So, you know, it was a good thing to happen.
Jeff Smith is 32 years old, currently living in East Freetown, Massachusetts, and now our man who covers the lead pack, Larry Rawson, is on that vehicle and has a good look at Jeff Smith. Larry Rawson, Jeff Smith is certainly a familiar character to you. How does he look?
To get exactly what's happening out here, the pace has been unbelievable. The first mile, which is run uphill, Jim,
was covered in 5 minutes and 25 seconds. The second mile downhill on the Verrazano Narrows Bridge was 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Now on the flat here, and I might add that they have a wind definitely at their back for the gentle course, which the first 8 miles actually is, has been about 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Smith is pulling another move just like he did in the Boston Marathon. This is, I think, too fast a pace. I don't know whether he's going to blow up again, but his last mile was 4 minutes and 38 seconds. The temperature out here is probably 65 degrees. It is low humidity, but you'll notice that Reese Snyder and Salah in back of him have given him latitude and let him go away. Smith runs very strongly like a 10,000 meter runner, gets up on his toes, powers with his arms, puffs his cheeks all the time. It's a characteristic of him, but he's looking all around. He looks very comfortable still, but I can't believe this amazing pace on a warm day. Jim?
Larry, we have not seen a camera shot of the defending champion Orlando Pizzolato, who's developing a style as a finisher rather than a pace setter in marathons. Have you seen Pizzolato?
No, he was not up there, Jim, in the very beginning. He did comment to me earlier in the week that his tactic probably would be try and run the second half of the marathon faster than the first half. This is something which he achieved with great success in Hiroshima earlier this year, and I have not seen him, and I can see back to about 6th place, going back about 200 meters. I've had the binoculars on him and was unable to pick him out yet. So maybe it's going to be a very smart tactic. By no means do I feel Pizzolato is having the wrong tactic here. These guys are going at, I think, almost an insane pace in the beginning.
All right, that's Larry Rawson on the men's lead vehicle, and he will be stationed there throughout the day for further reports on the progress of those leaders. Very quickly now, let's go now to Nancy Dietz, one of America's top women's marathon runners who's following the women's leaders. Nancy?
The interesting thing here is the race has developed really into a two-woman race. Greta Weitz and Lisa Martin are running stride for stride with incredible concentration. They barely look around. Straight ahead for Greta, and Lisa's looking down. I think she's worried a little bit about the holes in the road. She's a track runner and used to a smooth surface. Greta's brother, Jan Anderson, is running on the men's side of the course right now. At about 2 miles, he came over and spoke to her and then moved back over, but he gave her a reassuring word. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you very much, Nancy Dietz. You can worry about potholes yourself in that low-riding vehicle in which you're stationed for the rest of the day. There's a shot from just behind of Greta Weitz and Lisa Martin as they run along in Brooklyn. And Catherine Switzer, it's fair to say that Greta receives a great deal of coaching during the race here.
That's right. You know, Greta's brothers are both here. Jan has coached her for a long time, and now her other brother, Harold, who's 34, are here also. Her husband, Jack, and her coach, Johan Kagstad. So, I mean, she's got a full team of support systems.
The map shows you where they have been and where they're going. They're in Brooklyn after 28 minutes of the City Marathon. All right, thank you, Jack. And the fact that you're wearing that elegant trench coat in what we expect to be 70-degree weather leads me to believe that breeze is indeed brisk, as you said. Jeff Smith, still the leader among the men, followed by Reese Snyder, Saleh, Ibrahim Hussein, and Michael Booman now. And among the women, the two women who have been at the front since the very beginning of the race are Greta Weitz and Lisa Martin. And there's an aerial shot of some of the more than 18,000 who string out behind those leaders. For many people in the New York area in particular, this is an important family event during the course of the year, a red-letter day on the calendar. Before we examine that element of the race, let's take our first look now at the defending champion, Orlando Pizzolato of Italy. It has been mentioned to me, Marty, that Pizzolato is about 1 minute behind the men's leaders. Larry Rawson suggested this isn't a bad strategy.
No, I think it's fine. Actually, Jeff Smith is 45 seconds ahead of the time that Alberto Salazar ran when he ran a course record here. You can talk about world best pace, but really what you have to be concerned about is what the best men in the world have run on this course. So actually Orlando, although he's well back, is running only 15 seconds or so slower than the course record on a hot day.
Orlando shares his aspiration of winning the race with only a small handful of runs, 85 yards. There again was a look at the current standings among the men's leaders. Jeff Smith still running, Marty LaCroix during pace.
Now 57 seconds ahead of Alberto Salazar's course best pace back a few years ago. So it's still a wide open race. It's interesting that Jeff earlier in the week was kind of trying to let out that he was not really in the greatest shape of his life. He actually lost his last race, a short 10K race. He ran against a fellow by the name of Marcus O'Sullivan from Ireland who showed up at the last minute. And it looks, of course, as if Jeff lost to him, but Jeff said, I had to let him go. He was running too fast for me to run right before this big race. But the point I'm trying to make is if you're a front runner, you want everybody to think you're not in great shape, so they let you go. If you're like Pizzolato, who's going to come from behind, you want everybody to think you're in great shape.
Meanwhile, there are the front runners among the women, and Catherine Switzer, it would appear here that Lisa Martin has clearly chosen to position herself behind Greta Weitz.
Yes, you know, there's a technique in running, like race car driving, drafting, so that she can conserve energies by making Greta break the air in front of her. And this works substantially well, but also psychologically it's great because Greta cannot see Lisa back there and she doesn't know what she's doing. The pace was taken up pretty fast by these two women. There are two races going on, the nearest I can see from here. That's Lisa and Greta in the front, and then behind them, Jacqueline Garreau from Quebec, Lorraine Muller from New Zealand, and Julie Brown from Los Angeles. The time is about 2 hours and 23-minute pace, which is substantially off a world record, but it would be a personal best time for both Greta and Lisa by quite a bit. I think they're going out fast and that they'll settle down as the temperature dictates.
Now, the men at the front of the pack are making the turn in Brooklyn into the Fort Greene Park area. And there is Rod Dixon's helmet camera as he runs directly behind the leader, Jeff Smith. Rod Dixon, I wonder if you could possibly offer us an observation. I know that we are able to hear you at times on how Smith looks and what you think of this rapid strategy.
Well, I think at this stage, Jeff is looking very good. His arms nice and relaxed. He's driving very well up both the right and the left leg. There's no muscle tightening. He looks very, very comfortable and very, very relaxed.
And you get an idea there of how uncomfortable it can be, even for a runner in Rod Dixon's condition, to attempt to talk for broadcast while running about a 5-minute mile pace, but he's doing a heck of a job of keeping up with Jeff Smith. Once again, the view from our ABC Sports microcam mounted on. Greta Weitz of Norway leads City Marathon's women's race, but for the second year in a row, she battles gastric difficulties, and now we come into the studio to ask Dr. Paul Thompson, our medical.
She should at least be pouring it over herself at the water stops, and I notice she's not even doing that.
So your suggestion would be that Weitz, at the moment, should pay a lot more attention than she is to covering herself with water and keeping the outside of her body moist.
Remember, you lose heat by the evaporation of sweat or the evaporation of water, so staying moist allows the skin to keep giving off heat by evaporating that sweat.
All right, she just ran a 5-minute and 29-second mile for her last mile and maintaining that lead over Lisa Martin. Catherine Switzer, do you think she's being bothered?
Of course she's being bothered. I mean, the marathon is a combination of many events. You can train all year, all your life for this, and something totally unpredicted can happen. And Lisa Martin here looking for every psychological edge. It can't help Greta at all.
All right, so that's what's happening with Weitz and Lisa Martin at the front of the women's race, and we'll continue to keep up with that. Meanwhile, Larry Rawson again from the men's leaders. Larry?
To give you an idea of how great the athletes are today, consider this fact, that when the winner of today's race is at the 26-mile mark, if the winner of the first Olympic marathon were in the race, when the leader of today's race is at 26 miles, the winner of the first Olympic marathon would have 9 more miles still to cover in the race. Over my shoulder, some of the world's best. Jeff Smith has been tearing up the course. The first 10 miles, 47 minutes, 37 seconds. Down to about 4 minutes, 46 seconds per mile. An amazing pace. I'd like to add that this course is really made for Jeff. The first half of it is anyway, because it's slightly downhill. Watch his style. He gets up on the balls of his feet. He pumps harder than most marathoners do with their arms. Watch Ahmed Salah, who's back in second place with Reese Snyder. He lands on the ball of his foot. He runs more economically. We'll follow the progress here as these runners head towards New York and the finish line at Tavern on the Green. Back to you, Jim.
All right, thank you very much, Larry. Jeff Smith remains the leader in the men's race, and of course, as Larry's observation pointed out, Ahmed Salah of Djibouti is chasing him from third place. Bill Reese Snyder of the United States in second, Ibrahim Hussein of Kenya. and the University of New Mexico. He's in third place. Yusuf Dukal is the runner in fifth place right now.
And the runner in fifth place is also from Djibouti, and we are really watching them because they have been so surprising. Last week, Roble Jama from Djibouti was second in the Chicago Marathon, so anyone from Djibouti who is up near the front has to now be considered a contender.
Take another look now as the runners
Look easy. Now, there is another African runner of similar potential. Ahmed Saleh of Djibouti was and also ran in the Los Angeles Olympics. But in Japan's World Cup Marathon in April, he ran with the leaders until the last 100 meters and then won easily, missing the then world best by 4 seconds. Until 1960.
There again is a live shot of Jeff Smith, and you see Saleh over his shoulder in the background. As you've gathered, we're referring to him here as Ahmed Saleh. You may also see his name appear in print as Saleh Ahmed. Suffice it to say, this is a matter for debate, and we've chosen the direction we're going because Ahmed Saleh is the sequence he uses when identifying himself verbally. On the other hand, it appears on his passport in the opposite order. Suffice it to say, there are many cultures around the world in which the name sequence system is different and more confusing than the one we're used to, but we have no trouble with Jeff Smith. Projected time right now would be under world best for the marathon distance. We say world best, not world record, because the event is idiosyncratic. It is run on different courses and in different circumstances in different places around the world, but here in New York, Marty, a course record would be remarkable under these conditions, and both of these men are ahead of that pace right now.
The best runners know what a performance is worth. Each course is different, and there's a lot of respect for Salazar's course record. It was interesting. You saw Jama look around. Saleh look around and speak to someone. I don't know if he was looking back to Yosef, who is in fifth place now, to urge him on, but soon after he turned around and talked to someone, he took the lead, so someone has told him in his language, perhaps, what the pace is. It is possible that so far he has not known how fast the pace was, and now he's been yelled at by maybe one of his coaches, and he's going after the record.
Almost 1 hour and 3 minutes had elapsed since the beginning of this race, and right now you are seeing Saleh at the halfway point of the race, the 13-mile mark, as he embarks across the Pulaski Bridge from Brooklyn into Queens. So borough number 3, looming on the horizon for Saleh and Smith. Meanwhile, not terribly far behind them, Greta Weitz and Lisa Martin are still at the front of the women's race. Lisa Martin's husband, Ken Martin, is an American steeplechaser. They run and train together, and a little bit earlier this week, Lisa Martin, a native Australian, told us what her American husband has done for her.
I think the kind of person that I am, I probably wouldn't be running if I didn't have Ken, because, for instance, this week he'll wait on me hand and foot and do everything that I need him to do. You know, if there are things that need to be checked out about the course, he'll do running around, and I lack a bit of self-confidence, and he can give it to me before a race. He can say the sort of things that I need to hear. So I don't know what would happen to me if I ever traveled to a marathon and he wasn't with me. I don't know how well I'd hold up. Perhaps something like when I went to Australia for World Cup and he wasn't there, I really crumbled. But, you know, I have to learn to be a bit more independent, but I'm awfully glad that he's here. He's a big help.
And as we look at that live shot of Lisa Martin still in Brooklyn, the one thing that you notice is that Greta Weitz is no longer in the camera shot with her, Catherine Switzer. Greta Weitz has made a bit of a break.
Yes, Jim, this is at the 11-mile point, and look at the lead that Greta has opened up already. This may be the turning point in the race for Greta and Lisa. There is Greta on the right side of the screen. She is running fantastically, Jim. Whatever the problem was, it may be over. She may be expecting it again, but at any rate, the classic error is to go out too fast, and Lisa may have made it. She's out of contact, and it's important to stay in contact.
That is one possibility. It's all possible that while suffering from gastrointestinal difficulties, Greta Weitz doesn't want Lisa Martin to be right there at her elbow watching her suffer. So it could be that she's chosen to put some distance between herself and Lisa on that account. Catherine Switzer does hundreds of thousands of spectators out there today. Once more, a look at the front of the women's pack, where Greta Weitz now runs alone with Lisa Martin well behind her. Third place belongs to Jacqueline Garreau. Laura Fogley is in fourth place. Priscilla Welch is in fifth.
Well, obviously not Greta making this move at 11 miles. It was a very strong move. Her average mile, 5:29. Her last mile is 5:49. Now, she dropped off the pace, but she's still well ahead of Lisa Martin. Again, Lisa Martin making that classic error of going out at a pace that was 5 minutes faster than her personal best. And if she's that confident, she's going to have to be able to hold it throughout. Now, Greta looks fine. She's upright. Her arm carriage is still carrying a bit of tissue. She may be worrying about the diarrhea problem coming back, but basically she's drinking a lot of fluid. So as the doctor said, she probably is going to be compensating if she's feeling better.
Greta, at this moment, is running a pace which should give her a personal best. Her personal best time is still 2:25:29, perhaps motivated by the fact that both Ingrid Christensen and Joan Benoit Samuelson ran extremely fast times last week in Chicago. Now, let's go back out to Nancy Dietz. Nancy?
Today isn't a day for an especially fast time, and I think the heat has really bothered Greta. But whatever was upsetting her stomach is no longer a factor. She is running so smoothly now, and she has put about 20 yards on Lisa Martin. She's especially strong on the downhills here, as you'll see her begin to pass some of the men. She looks very strong, and I don't see her having any more trouble during the race. Lisa, on the other hand, I think did go out a little bit fast. Back to you, Jim.
All right, thank you, Nancy. It certainly would not win. Ahmed Saleh, now the leader. Jeff Smith, Hussein, Malley, and Ducal exit the 59th Street Bridge. They will have completed 16 miles.
And as Larry mentioned, Jeff Smith was favored on the beginning of the course because the roads there are really not the best. But as they get on the First Avenue, it's slightly downhill, very smooth. The roads in the park are very good. So I think Saleh now can really get into a smooth stride that he has. He's more of a shuffler, and he should be very strong on the second half of the race. He's still over a minute ahead of the pace that Salazar ran when he set the course record.
Now there is a look at the defending champion Orlando Pizzolato of Italy. At last report, Pizzolato was back in 20th place. He ran one of the fastest second halves of a marathon in history at Hiroshima at the World Cup earlier this spring. But I don't think many of us expected him, Marty, to go out quite as slowly as he has today.
He's back quite a bit, but the depth of the field this year is very strong. He's back there in 20th place, but Bill Rogers is back around 20th place, and they're still running under 2:10 pace. So the pace has been very quick. If the sun comes out or gets much stronger, you could see a lot of changes over the last 3 miles in the park.
Indeed, the high temperatures which we will see today are similar to those Pizzolato won the race a year ago, but this is a much drier day, not nearly as humid.
I think so, and there's no question that Ahmed is not going to wilt in the heat. The country he comes from has average temperatures of 85 degrees to 107, so he is used to extreme heat and is loving every minute of this. This is right to his liking.
Now you see Saleh as he exits from the 59th Street Bridge and makes the 270-degree turn onto First Avenue. And here the runners first begin to experience the huge crowds, the enormous crowd support for which New York is noted. You see Rod Dixon dropping in now in the helmet camera right behind Ahmed Saleh, and there you see some of the throngs who mass under the bridge and along First Avenue, 59th Street and 125th Street. Many of them step right out their front doors and wait to greet those runners as they come by each year in the New York City Marathon. There now, Jeff Smith, who is well behind Saleh.
Well, Jeff gave it a good try. He wanted to see if he had it. He may have had some doubts in his mind what kind of shape he was in, but he found out certainly.
Saleh is moving very well, so we're not going to try to talk to Rod Dixon, rather just to take a look at how the scene looks to Ahmed Saleh of Djibouti in his first New York City Marathon, as for the first time in his life, he makes a trek up First Avenue and greets probably a larger number of people than he has ever seen on any single day in his entire life.
I would say in the space of 5 or 6 blocks, there are more people right now than in the entire country that he lives in. So he gave Rod a real look around to look for.
We remind you, Ahmed Saleh is 29 years old, born and raised in the tiny East African nation of Djibouti, which gained its independence from France in 1977 and is the size of the state of New Hampshire. Population 320,000. How does that compare to the crowd here? Well, crowd estimates in this city, not ours, but those conducted by the police department and other authorities, have placed the figure of people who see this race live or see a part of it live as high as 2 or 2.5 million. That is the scene in which Saleh finds himself now. Meanwhile, another look back at Orlando Pizzolato, who is probably just now beginning to exit the bridge. And there it is. He has come down off of the 59th Street Bridge, is making the turn onto First Avenue, and Marty, he's moved up to 10th place.
He has, and I think he's going to move up another 4 or 5 places, but I think that the win is out of reach for him because we had such a great shot from Rod Dixon's camera of Ahmed, and we can really see Ahmed straddling the line, following the white line, his stride. He looks like he just started the race. He's not going to come back to them. They'll have to come up and catch him. He's going to be running close to world best pace and probably will get the course record here.
Psychologically, he may indeed have just begun the race. Saleh took the lead at just about the halfway mark as the runners were on the 59th Street Bridge between Queens and Manhattan. And now, in a very short period of time, he has put forward a marathon. Later, they will see the center of Manhattan, Fifth Avenue. For the moment,
all 132 pounds, continues on his merry way. This man right now has covered the last 4 miles at an average pace of 5 minutes per mile. He has waved to the crowd maybe 5 or 6 separate times, saluting both them and probably his performance, raising at times both arms and smiling. He seems fresh and alert and well within himself should he be challenged by Jeff Smith, who at the last report we had was 1 minute and 17 seconds behind. The temperature, it's warm, the humidity is low. He's now going to have the wind in his face very soon. For a report on the women's race, let's go now to Nancy Dietz.
We've just passed the 17-mile mark on First Avenue, and as you can hear, the noise is deafening. It is so exciting to be coming up this street. And Greta Weitz is New York's own, and she is running beautifully. She has slowed just slightly in the last couple miles, but she is running very evenly, and she does not appear to be suffering at all from the stomach trouble that plagued her early in the race.
all right, thank you very much, Nancy and Larry. They're the standings in the women's race. Greta Weitz and Lisa Martin now in the upper area of First Avenue, making their way into Spanish Harlem. Meanwhile, the leader, Ahmed Saleh, you saw going, I've seen people complete so many marathons with such overwhelming success in the participatory area of this event that there are some who now question if indeed it is valid to say that there is necessarily a wall at the 20-mile mark of the marathon. It does not appear at this moment as though leader Ahmed Saleh of Djibouti is running into any walls at all. New York City Marathon. Last year's champion, Orlando Pizzolato, has moved up into 4th place among the men. An intriguing character, Pizzolato, as Jack Whitaker reports.
Marathon. Until last year, Orlando was a good, if not spectacular, distance runner. But somewhere on the streets of New York, he found something. And despite stopping 8 times along the way because of stomach and leg cramps, Orlando managed to get out in front, hold off a charge by David Murphy, win the race, and become a national hero. He trains 4 hours every day with the Ferrara Marathon Club. He hopes for another New York victory, but he is still enjoying last year's win.
And even as we meet him, the Pizzolato surge continues. He has now moved past Pat Peterson, a local boy from the Greenpoint section of Brooklyn, and Jeff Smith of England, and has moved into 2nd place. So Orlando Pizzolato rapidly developing Marty LaCourie as the silky of the heat. Now there's a look at Bill Rogers, Marty LaCourie, who has moved up, perhaps a bit surprisingly, to 5th place. A year ago, Pizzolato won here when the heat... Thank you very much, Paul. And as we look at the leader, it is Ahmed Saleh of Djibouti. Marty LaCourie, I haven't seen Saleh stopping at many water stops. I have not seen him put water over his body, which would be the advisable technique under these conditions, but of course he's more used to these conditions than perhaps any other runner in the field.
We have to put his life into perspective. He is a nomad. He is from a country where they get 5 inches of rain a year. In fact, drinking water is a luxury, uncontaminated drinking water. But I have seen him grab some. In fact, I thought one of the police handed him a cup before, but he takes it very quick, seems to dump half a glass out on the ground and then just drink the other half.
He is still the leader after 21 miles, with Pizzolato now in 2nd place and preparing to attempt to mount a challenge. Jeff Smith trying to hold on in 3rd place. American Pat Peterson from Brooklyn, New York in 5th place. And right now, the first finisher, and there is the leader in the men's competition, Ahmed Saleh of Djibouti, but Saleh is slowing down just a little bit. Right now, it appears that the strongest runner in the field is Orlando Pizzolato of Italy. Catherine Switzer, I know that you spoke to Pizzolato this week. Did he discuss this strategy?
He certainly did, Jim. He said that he was going to wait until he got across that bridge on First Avenue and make his move there, that he knows he's a strong finisher. He runs the second half faster, and that the second half of New York is a tougher half, and so he knew he had to save his energy for that. Plus, Jim, he said, the Italian population here is so wonderful. They've all been writing to me, encouraging me, and they're all going to be out there in Bay Ridge and along First Avenue rooting for him. He said when he got home last year that he was third in the Italian national news after Reagan and the Pope. So this is a very important moment for him.
Marty Liquori, another Italian boy. What chance do you give him?
Good chance now. Last mile for Ahmed was a 5:18 followed by a 5:32 and now a 5:33. So we're looking at Pizzolato having made up almost 30 seconds in the last 3 miles alone. He is probably less than a minute behind right now, and you can see that Pizzolato looks good, but Ahmed is really starting to jog now. His arms coming up much higher, and the sweat now really, you can see he's sweating much more now. He is getting overheated even though he comes from a very desert climate.
You guessed right, Marty. Pizzolato is now within a minute of Ahmed Saleh, 56 seconds behind at last count. There are only about 20 minutes of running left, perhaps a little bit less than that. So Pizzolato is going to have to gather himself now and make this even stronger one, but he has gotten into the picture, and there was a point just a few miles ago when that didn't appear possible.
And he has about 5 miles to go. This does not make sense today because Bill Rogers, who has been known to run terribly in the heat, is now in 4th place. So Bill Rogers is running his best race in 8 years in conditions we would think that would not be good for him.
And the man who should be most accustomed by constitution to this heat and the difficulty of running in it is the one who appears at this moment to be having difficulty with it. There's a good look at Saleh, and there is Pizzolato, and you can see that he is making up ground step by step. Larry Rawson, how does it look?
What's interesting here is
All right, we're having difficulty right now receiving Larry Rawson's microphone as they make their way back out of the Bronx and into the upper Manhattan section.
And you know, Jim, we always hear this expression, the runners are hitting the wall. It's almost overworked, but here is a situation where a world-class runner is hitting the wall. His stride is shortening, he can't lift his knees, his arms are flailing across his chest, his head is wobbling, he's going all over the road. This is what it feels like.
Looks a little bit like Jeff Smith did in the closing stages in 1983. And now one more time, Larry Rawson.
hear me now, Jim?
Yes, I do hear you, Larry. What's happening there?
Ahmed Saleh in the background. I can see in the distance Orlando Pizzolato continue to close, and he is averaging better than 15 seconds per mile over the last 6 miles on closing on Saleh. Saleh has still been pointing the finger up. I'm #1 to the audience. I'm amazed here that he seems to be running, I think, maybe with something still left in him. He seems to be animated as opposed to Jeff Smith and other runners who, when they're tired, fix on the blue line. He has been looking around and spent time about a mile ago speaking with someone, and a Somalian, for about a half mile. He looked at that time like he was in real trouble, then he picked up the pace again. We are heading down Fifth Avenue now. He has, as Jim has said, about 3.5 miles to go. At the moment, he is slowing even more. This looks like a repeat of last year, and Pizzolato continues to make up tremendous ground. Jim, back to you.
Thank you very much, Larry Rawson. There is a look at the two runners. And Marty Liquori, what about the robust physical build of Pizzolato?
Well, not only that, Jim, but look behind Pizzolato. Pat Peterson of New York is also coming into this race. I think we'll see somewhat of a sprint finish. I know that Pizzolato has a very good finish at the end. I've talked with his handlers on some of the workouts he did recently, so he's very fast at the end. But Saleh waited until the last 400 meters in Hiroshima to start his kick, and he is also a very good sprinter. It might turn into a mile race at the end.
Saleh is in first place. Pizzolato is in second place. Pat Peterson of the Greenpoint, Brooklyn, now of Lake Ronkonkoma in New York, out on Long Island, is in third place. Bill Rogers is in fourth, and what a story it would be if he could get in there. It's been years since Bill Rogers won a major marathon. Hasn't won a major marathon since Melbourne, Australia in 1982. Don Norman in fifth place, trains in Pennsylvania with George Malley, another runner who was up among the leaders earlier today, and also Bill Reich-Schneider, whom we saw at the beginning of the race. And there now are the standings in the women's competition. Weitz in first place, Lisa Martin in second place, and the others you saw listed behind them. Weitz has not really been threatened in the women's race for many miles now. Catherine Switzer, as we look at her past the 20-mile
And just to add spice to the Curie interest in the last stages of the 1985 New York Marathon, you saw Lorraine Moller positioned fourth at this stage of the race, according to the ABC. What the ABC is not saying is that Nairi Drake of Wellington has just moved into the top 10 in the race at this point.
So she's still at the top of the game. She's got 49 seconds on Lisa Martin, and let's not overlook the fact that Lisa Martin is also running the best race of her life. And behind her is Laura Foley, a consistent third in this race. But Greta, right out there. This is the reason why she gets the reputation for being unbeatable.
There was Greta Weitz as she made her journey out of the Bronx. There is Ahmed Saleh, the men's leader, and you can see now that he has entered the top part of Central Park. So they are now definitely into the home stretch of the race. Saleh is in the top part of Central Park. At the bottom of Central Park, they will exit. Many of you know your way around New York City. They will exit briefly and run along Central Park South, also known as 59th Street, and then they'll go back into the park for the finish near Tavern on the Green. There is Orlando Pizzolato, still appearing to try to pick up the momentum a little bit as he chases Saleh. Pizzolato can see Saleh in front of him, so he knows exactly what his task is.
The last mile for Saleh was 5:41. It does not look good for him, although I noticed that he is crossing over from side to side on the road, running the shortest route, so he is still very cognizant of what's going on around him. He is not looking back. He will have to make a decision when Pizzolato comes up, whether he's going to try and go with him or hang back off. I think this race is going to come down to the last mile. Pizzolato is going to try and pass him perhaps on the other side of the road and hope that he gets a few yards before Ahmed Saleh even knows he's there.
Good look at Pizzolato as he runs the inside line, as you can see on the far right side of the Park Drive. There are, just as along First Avenue, people jammed shoulder to shoulder alongside the Park Drive, cheering for these runners as they make their way now into the final stage of the race. Pizzolato glancing to his left and looking ahead of him to see Ahmed Saleh. Saleh, 29 years old, runs with a certain kind of pressure. This is only his 8th marathon, but he regards himself as the sole financial support of a family of 27 people. He is the son of a nomad tribesman who, when he died in 1974, left 9 children, 3 wives, and Saleh puts the bread on the table for all of them. There were some reports here earlier this week whispered around in running circles that Saleh was upset with the amount of appearance money he was given to appear here, particularly when he learned that Carlos Lopez was supposedly offered $75,000 to run here in New York.
Well, Pizzolato is trying to make the move now. He's staying on the opposite side of the road, trying to give as little notice of his presence as possible. If he can go by quickly, that's going to be to his advantage. When you pass somebody who is having a problem like this, you don't pull up on their shoulders, sit there for 200 yards, and let them get used to you. Go right by them, try and break their spirit. He'll drop his arms and try and look as comfortable as he possibly can. It's, you know, the old... Here's the pass, and he's sneaking by. It's like a little kid going past the parent's bedroom. Get up on your toes and hold your breath and hope they don't see you go by the door.
Oh, there he goes. He's taking the lead
quickly.
So now Saleh has pulled behind Pizzolato, and apparently he is going to determine his strategy from here on in by what Pizzolato does. Saleh, as you can see, now moving just a little bit ahead, glancing over to take a look at Pizzolato. Pizzolato seems less concerned with what's happening to Ahmed Saleh.
No, I think Saleh was smart. He did as President Reagan said a couple of weeks ago. You can run, but you can't hide. Pizzolato could not sneak by him. He's keeping a good eye on him now, and he's doing exactly what he did at Hiroshima. At Hiroshima, Saleh kept an eye on his competition until they entered the track, the last 400 meters, and then he won by 6 seconds. So now you've got the old duel of who's got the biggest gun. Neither of them know who has the faster kick. The action might not start until they get off Central Park South, make the turn into the park with 400 meters to go, and then we'll see who's got the great kick.
This is becoming a New York City tradition. We saw it with Gomez and Salazar. We saw it with Jeff Smith and Todd Dixon. Now we are going to watch Orlando Pizzolato of Italy, the defending champion, and Ahmed Saleh of Djibouti, running in his first New York Marathon, as they duel through Central Park.
Well, he would be psyching me out right now. Saleh kind of looking back saying, I can cover anything you do. I'm just going slowly right now to cover you. They are really playing the mind battles, and the pace has dropped down now to 2:11. So they both said, forget the time. I got to gather myself. I got to relax. This is now a strategic race. We'll see a lot of fireworks on Central Park South when they get to that flat, fast stretch. And neither of them, this is kind of what we thought we'd see in the Olympics. It never did happen because Carlos Lopez just ran away from the field. But once again in New York, you have a race which will undoubtedly be one of the 10 or 11 closest races ever run at this distance.
In addition to appearance fees, which both of these runners collected, the prize money here is $25,000 plus an expensive foreign automobile to the winner and $22,000 to the man who finishes in second place. So right now there is considerable commercial stake at stake, I should say, in this particular finish.
You can see that Ahmed has really gathered himself. He's looking a lot better now than he did down First Avenue and on Fifth Avenue. He's cut back on the pace. He's gathering himself. Now the auto suggestion. Pizzolatto became such a great runner last year, according to one of his teammates, because about a year ago he started working with auto hypnosis, and they are both now reinforcing the things they've learned in practice about staying relaxed. But they are starting to move. You can see they're picking the pace up as they wind through the park.
Indeed, Saleh didn't look so fresh for 8 miles as he did the moment that Pizzolatto went by him on the inside of the park drive. Suddenly, it appeared that Ahmed Saleh woke up. They have less than 2 to go. They are at the bottom of Central Park. In moments, they are going to exit onto Central Park South, or 59th Street if you prefer. And they will run along the bottom perimeter of the park there. There you see, that is the right angle at the left side of your screen. They are moving toward that stage right now. Then, when they have run along Central Park South to Columbus Circle, they will turn right and go back up into Central Park, and that is the point at which Alberto Salazar broke Rodolfo Gomez just a few years ago.
That's right, the great Dust Bowl victory. Alberto, there is a portion of about 20 yards. You step up a curve, and at that time you ran on dirt, and the dust just blew up, and out of that dust came Alberto Salazar to win. Gomez lost 10 yards. They have now paved that over, so we won't see any dust storms today. But Pizzolatto has to be wondering about this man from Djibouti, because we have all followed with interest the background that he comes from. He's a very hard man, a hard life. There's not much hope of breaking this man's spirit. The hope for Pizzolatto is to have more talent, to have done better workouts, and to be able to run that last half mile in 2 minutes and 15 seconds, something like that. He's trying to break him on this hill.
We don't want to leave out the women's race. Greta Weitz is in good shape. We're told that she has just passed the 23-mile mark. She remains in control of that race. Catherine Switzer, here is the big test of Pizzolatto's psychological power.
And he was telling me about this earlier this week. He said, if I can catch him toward the end, I know I can beat him. And this is where he's making his move. If he breaks the contact here, Marty, this might be it.
He's starting to lose sight now, and Ahmed is losing sight. I know that Ahmed is proud of the way he finished in Hiroshima, and he seems to be a wily character. I know that I did things like this myself in high school. Let a man get 20 yards on you so that he cuts back on the pace if you feel that you can beat him over the last 200 meters by 200 yards.
Marty, when Orlando Pizzolatto won here amid difficult weather conditions a year ago, there were some who doubted his legitimate stature within the sport of marathon running. Are there any doubts right now?
I don't think anyone can doubt it after this. He has been spectacular, although he has not raced often since his victory here last year. It is apparent that he has molded his life and his training around repeating the victory in the New York Marathon. He has been very scientific in both his training and his pacing, and it seems to have paid off. You have here the ultimate scientifically trained man. He works under physiologists in Italy with very scientific coaches, versus a man from a country where, as I said, the water in most cases is contaminated, and has grown up in a country where 40% of the children under 5 years old don't have enough to eat, who has just burst onto the scene because of his tremendous talent. So you have the two extremes that exist in the sport, but both of them have gotten to the finish line close to first place.
That is Pizzolatto, the leader. Ahmed Saleh is now dropping back, and it appears for the moment, as though Orlando Pizzolato has overcome the challenge of Ahmed Saleh and is about to win his second consecutive New York Marathon. The margin right now is 13 seconds.
Well, that tells the story. The picture of Saleh heavily sweating, drinking at this late stage in the race, and then Pizzolato, his skin very dry. We don't need to be a doctor or have a temperature or a pulse monitor on them right now. We know what has happened. Saleh is overheated. Pizzolato is running well and is got the adrenaline going, and he should not be caught today.
Here are the leaders. Orlando Pizzolato, who despite having slowed down a bit in the last few miles because of the heat, is going to run a faster time here today than he did in winning the race a year ago. The women's leader, Greta Weitz of Norway, who is past 23 miles and in control of the women's competition. She has not been threatened by Lisa Martin of Australia or by any other woman for several miles now. And you can see that Rod Dixon in our ABC Microcam outfit has just moved in behind Pizzolato. So Rod is going to give us a look at what Orlando Pizzolato sees now as he runs along Central Park South and prepares to enter the park again for the finish of the race. There is the promenade along Central Park South. Some of the most exclusive and expensive hotels and restaurants in the world are to Pizzolato's left. To his right is a huge mass of people who have been waiting for hours to see him. As we have mentioned before, it goes without saying, the city of New York has an enormous Italian population. Rod Dixon, what is the feeling now behind Pizzolato? Rod is unable to speak at this moment. You see him shaking his head there.
Very, very comfortable.
I think
he looks comfortable, Rod?
His arm action is very, very comfortable. He's very, very strong. He's hardly perspiring.
It is indeed.
Very efficient arm carriage. Strong toe off. His feet are standing very perfectly. Incredible athlete.
All right, excellent job, Rod, bringing us up to date on precisely how it looks at that particular vantage point. Orlando Pizzolato making his way now along 59th Street. In moments, Marty LaTorre, he will turn back up into Central Park for what is one of the most fulfilling moments that any runner can ever experience in this sport.
Well, he certainly deserves it today. He was a wily competitor, holding back as Jeff Smith first went out with an extremely fast pace, and then Salah at halfway took off and was also running close to world best pace. He bided his time, perhaps having a lot of help from the sidelines, getting good splits, his pace, probably correctly judging what the winning time would be today in this heat and pacing himself just perfectly.
That is what's happening at the bottom of Central Park. 51 blocks north of here, at the top end of Central Park, Greta Weitz enters Central Park for her final stages of what might be her 7th victory in the New York Marathon. She won in 78, 79, and 80. She exited after 14 miles in 1981 on a day on which Allison Rowe ran the fastest women's New York City Marathon ever. Then Greta came back to win again in 82, 83, and 84, and she has dominated the race today. And there's an overhead shot of Central Park South as Orlando Pizzolato completes his short journey and now makes the turn. The bottom right-hand side of your screen there was Columbus Circle, named, of course, for the man who discovered the New World, Christopher Columbus. And Pizzolato begins to turn now up into the park. There's the statue of Columbus behind him over his left shoulder. The crowds are huge here as he is now within a mile of the finish line. You see him turning to look at the crowd. Maybe someone said something to him.
Well, he had a good chance. After a sharp turn, you can turn around and look and see if you've gone 40 yards and you don't see anybody back there, you know that you've got a good lead. I think he proved today that marathoning is a very physical endeavor, but it also is a very cerebral endeavor at the same time.
Orlando Pizzolato was in 20th place, seemingly totally out of contention at the 14-mile mark in this race. In the last 12 miles, he has passed 19 runners, the last among them the man who ranked as co-favorite with Pizzolato to win the race, Ahmed Saleh of Djibouti. And as he went by Saleh, he did it at the end of a brilliant and stirring effort in the second half of this race. There's another look at Saleh, who now knows that he is a beaten man.
There is no describing, really, the joy in winning a race in this fashion for Orlando. He had to live with the fact for a year that he was a one-shot man. He won because it was hot here in New York, and certainly the doubts in his mind when he was lagging 1 and almost 2 minutes behind are very tough things to overcome. So he has won this in such courageous fashion and put up with the pressures for a year. This is very satisfying. It's always great to win it the second time.
And he is in a position to exhibit a joy right now which he could not have experienced amid extreme physical distress a year ago. He's not getting older, he's getting stronger. Pizzolato's winning time, 2 hours, 11 minutes, 33 seconds, in temperatures above 70 degrees. Here is a man who ran a brilliant first 20 miles and may have learned a lesson in the last 6.
Trying his best to put on a sprint at the end, but you can see his hamstring is starting to cramp up on him. And perhaps the man I least thought would succumb to the heat has succumbed to the heat and the cramps. Perhaps he didn't, as you mentioned earlier, Jim, drink enough in the early stages of that race. He's used to such hot weather that he just didn't feel thirsty, but you have to drink even if you're not thirsty. A great effort, but he still has something to learn about running the marathon.
He has just completed only the 8th marathon race of his running career, and there will be more. There is Pat Peterson, who finished 4th a year ago, and now comes back to finish 3rd. Pat Peterson, 26 years old, who lives in Lake Ronkonkoma, New York. There's the champion, Orlando Pizzolato. He joins some of the greatest names in the history of this sport as repeat winners here. Bill Rogers won it 4 times. Alberto Salazar was a multiple winner. And now, Orlando Pizzolato. Now we return to the women's race, where Greta Weitz holds a comfortable lead as she makes her way through adoring crowds in Central Park. A Norwegian lady who is, in the minds of all of the people watching her now, an honorary New Yorker. One among many emotional events to take place here today is the return of the prodigal son, the man on whose image the race was largely built. Bill Rogers, who came here in 1976 and won every year from 76 through 79, has been away for a few years, partially as a result of a feud with race director Fred LeBeau. But LeBeau and Rogers have patched it up, and Bill Rogers just the age of 37 in the New York City Marathon, a man who remains one of the greatest names in the history of distance running in this or any other country. Ibrahim Hussein, you saw finishing just behind Bill Rogers. The finish line now becomes a continuous procession of finishers in this race. For the next several hours, they will be coming in. More than 18,000 left the Verrazano Narrows Bridge in Staten Island at 10:45 Eastern Time this morning. That man finished first for the second consecutive year, Orlando Pizzolato. 2:11:33, 2 hours, 11 minutes, 33 seconds. Now Pizzolato's official time on this warm and sunny day, October 27, 1985. And there is the woman who is apparently destined to win for the 7th time in the women's competition, a model to all women distance runners, Catherine Switzer. The argument can still be made, despite the accomplishments of Christensen and Joan Benoit Samuelson, that on her competitive record, Greta Weitz ranks as the greatest woman runner of all time. Do you buy it?
I buy it. I think that she is a racer and an arch competitor, and she puts the money on the line when she really needs to do it. Look at her here, Jim. She's tired. She's been laying in 6-minute miles, which is well off her best. She's thrown the best records out the window. She is going now to win the race. It's important for her to win. And regardless of how tired she is, she can still run very, very well without losing too much form. She is approaching Central Park South now, which is after the 24-mile point. And basically, she's running about a 2 hour and 27-minute pace.
Incidentally, Catherine, I'm just told for a matter of footnotes that I received bad information regarding the place in which Rogers finished. It was not fourth, although he was running fourth in the latter stages of the race. He did wind up finishing seventh. Seventh is not fourth, but it is still an extremely creditable finish for the prodigal son, Bill Rogers, as he made his return to New York today. And there are the two men who finished first and second. That stirring duel through Central Park. On the right, Orlando Pizzolato. On the left, Ahmed Saleh. And there's Greta Weitz once again.
I think we have to say that Greta, probably more than any other woman runner, is responsible for getting so many women runners going and believing in themselves in terms of elite running. Greta was the first woman to break 2 hours and 30 minutes in a marathon. People said it couldn't be done. Now she is constantly running in the 224, 225 range. And basically, people look at Greta, they know her here in New York, and they come to believe in women's marathon running and distance running.
But could she run in the 221 and 22 range, which has been explored by Benoit and Christensen?
I'm not sure she can, but I think that today she wanted to try because, Jim, even in the heat, she was on a personal record at the beginning. And I think she wanted to show that she can be in that world-class league with them. It's going to be interesting to put the three of them together on an ideal day, on an ideal surface. Greta loves New York. That's one reason why she comes back here. She was offered to go to Chicago, but she felt that New York needed her, and that she is better known and loved here, and certainly her impact is enormous.
And of course, given the circumstances of the business of big-time marathon running at this point, we may not ever see Greta Weitz run on an ideal day under ideal circumstances against Joan Benoit Samuelson and/or Ingrid Christensen. But the only marathon race she ever finished and lost was the Olympic race, which Benoit essentially stole in the first few miles. Do you think it is important to Greta to have another confrontation with Joan Benoit?
Yes, it is. I think that Greta is an incredible competitor, and I think she wants that matchup. And I think it will come. I think it may be in a couple of years, maybe in '88. Who knows? You know, these women, as they run longer, they get better as they get older. That's being proved more. And I think although Greta may think she wants to retire from this sport, she can't bear to do it because she's still at the top of her game. And right now, let's face it, business requires her to stay on top of the game and to become as well known and to live up to her videotapes and her endorsements as much as possible.
What about Greta Weitz as she tries to live up to all of those responsibilities, which do not come naturally to her? Could they not, in fact, affect her training and her competitive level in marathon running?
Sure, it always does. It distracts a little bit, but let's not forget that it's her business, and she has made it her whole life, all her life. She started off, there she is with Jack. Let's take a look at this. Jack has been a very strong support system for her. He's now encouraging her and telling her how far she has to go. Of course, she knows that, but what to look for. And she's saying, no, I'm going to run my own race here. And that's her brother behind her there. Greta knows that this is her race, and she knows this part of the route very, very well. Yes, getting back to your question. With those endorsements and things, yes, I think that it's difficult for her to live up to those obligations, but it's her life and she loves it. And I think once she wants to establish that, she feels that maybe after the '88 Olympics, perhaps she can retire. Jack says that she's not looking as far ahead as '88. She's only looking a year at a time now. But as long as she can still run like this and run well, why not?
It should be mentioned in support of enthusiasts who like to think of her as the greatest women's marathoner ever, that before that loss in Los Angeles, she had experienced back spasms the day before the final and perhaps was not in her absolute best condition. On the other hand, she has proven time and time over that she is a gritty and tough competitor, as Catherine Switzer said, who can win when she isn't at her best condition. Greta Weitz is in the final processional stages of her 7th victory in the New York City Marathon. When we come back, we'll see her finish and join Orlando Pizzolato among the champions here. It's truly a festival of a foot race in this keynote city in the United States. There is Greta Weitz as she makes her way across Central Park South, or West 59th Street if you prefer, on her way toward Columbus Circle, where she will turn back up into the park and reach the finish line of her 7th New York City Marathon victory. The fastest women's race in the history of the New York City Marathon was run by Allison Rowe in 1981. Greta Weitz has run the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th fastest times, including her 2:29:30 finishing time a year ago. Out of her projected pace through 21 miles, she would finish well ahead of that at 2:28:12. But Catherine Switzer, as you pointed out, she has slowed down in the last few miles.
She has slowed down, and I think that she's going to be outside of 2 hours and 28 minutes, which is unfortunate because you put in the effort in a marathon regardless of what the end time is. And I think that, again, that Greta really wanted to prove to those other world-class runners in the world today, the Ingrid Christensens and the Joan Benoits, that she is still world-class, that she's still up there. but the competitor in her that she is showing, look, I can't do it today. I had some problems at the beginning. It's a hot day. I'm going for the win. And she is going to be the winner here today. Not one of her best times, but certainly one of her best performances.
And just as Orlando Pizzolato collected $25,000 plus an expensive foreign car, so too will Greta Weitz, as the prize money scale is very similar for the first 5 men and the first 5 women. Not unlike the prize money scale you would have seen in a Professional Golf Association tournament about 10 or 12 years ago, or just about identical to what you see on the women's golf tour right now. Greta Weitz, as she proceeds toward the finish of her 7th New York City Marathon victory.
This run across Central Park South is really an uphill run. For Christians, I think it's kind of like going up Calvary, my goodness. And here she comes into the Columbus Circle area across, and she's going to go across the grass area, which was so important in that strategic duel between Salazar and Gomez, as you recall. They paved it this year, I've noticed out there running, to trip over that last curb. It's interesting, at this stage in the race, the curb even feels like a 6-foot wall sometimes when you just try to lift up and get across that.
So many of the hundreds of thousands of people in this borough of Manhattan who do their running on a daily basis right here in Central Park. How many of the women will be out there tomorrow silently thinking of themselves as Greta Weitz?
They say that sometimes you watch a performance like this and you go out there and run some of your best workouts. I heard a statistic that on Monday mornings that there are more injuries than any other time. But here comes Greta, coming back from Norway again after 7 weeks of training to bring into the finish.
Thousands massed at the finish line, and they know her very well.
Well, we are seeing a record set that will probably never be broken. No one will ever win this many major marathons again, because the competition just gets stronger and stronger every day, and it probably will never happen again.
A man named Clarence DeMar won the Boston Marathon 7 times. That was quite some time ago. Greta Weitz has been in the New York Marathon 8 times. And when she reaches the finish, she will have won 7 of them.
Jim, her business associates and Jack said that this win was very important for her today. She waves at the crowd. She knows it's important. World-class competitors have to know that she is back in the race, back in the field. I would speculate that Greta could come here for a few more years and do this again. It's an incredible victory for her today in terms of the fact that she started off with a tremendous number of problems, and at the crucial point in those problems, she made a psychological move. She pushed the race, opened up the lead on Lisa Martin, and held the lead and ran the race virtually on her own, waving to the crowd, acknowledging that it's not her best race, but it may be one of her best victories. 7 victories in a row. Sorry, 7 victories for Greta Weitz, not in a row, but 7 victories.